y'all, welcome to another episode of 12 Days of Storytime. I hope you guys are enjoying it because we got a two-parter for you. I think it really depends on how fast I can tell this story. And honestly, let me just say that when it comes to this story, I actually debated heavily about ever talking about this. However, I feel like a lot of people not only relate to this, which is actually super sad, but also parents, you need to be aware of where you're sending your kids. And you need to also ask your kids every single day about their day and what's going on where they are, because there's so many things that happen at these camps, these schools, these programs, and it's so crazy because almost every single time I talk about something like this regarding kids, whether it's my situation with the school or something else, like something in the youth group, I always have people that like contact me personally or, you know, comment on these videos and they're always like, oh wow, like I would never think something like this was happening, or my kid went through something similar and they told me and I didn't believe them. Like, please keep up, okay? Definitely check in with what your kids are doing, how their day is going, and most importantly, the adults that they have around them. So, of course, as you guys can tell by the title, we're gonna be talking about a dance position I had in which one of my coworkers was allegedly touching the kids. Huge trigger warning. If this is something that you know is gonna trigger you, do not watch it. I debated heavily with doing this because like this shit just left a really bad taste in my mouth. It really made me wonder like what else is going on behind the scenes that this company has been covering up. So get your tea, get your snacks, get everything you need. If this is going to trigger you, please click off now. So let me just say I'm extremely uncomfortable doing this story time, but a part of me feels like I actually have to do this story time. But before we get into that, please make sure you like, share, subscribe, do all of that. Please donate to the GoFundMe to support my family. It's going to be linked down below. If you can't support monetarily, please just share it. Or most importantly, please run up my video views, buy some merchandise, or join the Patreon. So this story time takes place about maybe, wow, like I think 2 years ago. Jesus Christ, time flies. If you guys follow me on Instagram, which you should be following me on Instagram, I do dance motivation and lifestyle content on there. I had did a post literally 2 years ago about how I became a dance teacher in Harlem, right? Now, this was for a summer program with a company that I had been working with for over a year at the time. Now, I'm not gonna give too many details away, but it's interesting because I still have the posts on my Instagram. So you might be able to figure it out. You might not. Honestly, I really don't care. All I know is in this video, I won't be saying the name of the company, of course, for legal reasons. And also this has been reported to the proper authorities. So it just is what it is. As you guys should know by now, I am a dance teacher, Zumba instructor, choreographer. Dance is literally one of my real true passions aside from YouTube. I also sing, write. I do a lot. Like I'm literally a multidisciplinary creative. I literally thrive in every creative space with the exception of playing an instrument. I still can't play an instrument, but I do have a keyboard here because I do want to learn. Once I mainstreamed my YouTube, I really wanted to get into dancing more. So I started picking up different part-time jobs that dealt with dance, mainly during the panoramic, right? Now, I will say that this job was definitely one of the best jobs I've ever had. I genuinely like the job. I genuinely like the people, with the exceptions of like a few things here and there, like literally probably hands down one of the best organizations I have worked with. However, I refuse to work with these people ever again simply because of this situation and because they were just playing in our faces, right? I had landed this job during the panoramic around when schools were opening right back up, and they were paying pretty well. They were paying like $45 an hour to $55 an hour, like literally 45 being the low end, for literally a couple hours per week. So I was making a good little bit, you know, just by being there like a couple hours a week. I really liked the kids that I worked with, the kids that I had. Like I built such a bond with them. Like I love them so much and I miss them to this day. Definitely the best group of kids I worked with. I feel like I told the story time about this particular part of the story, but I just can't seem to find it. So very briefly, the only issue I will say I had with this job was with my first ever real assignment. I was placed at a school in Jersey, and unfortunately they never found a co-teacher for me, right? So without giving too much away, the program that I worked for was literally a STEM and dance type of program that helped minority women get into. As many of you guys should know, the STEM field is actually very skim when it comes to women, especially minority women. So that's basically what the mission of the company is. And it's very interesting because there's so many programs like that out there now. I applied to at least 2 or 3 and got the positions for 2 or 3 different companies that did the same exact thing. But this was the company that like I genuinely really liked, and that was paying the most, to be quite honest. Like the other ones was talking about some $18 an hour. Like, fuck am I gonna do with $13 an hour? Like, no. But unfortunately, they didn't have a co-teacher for me. So I feel like I told this story. I can't find the story. So very briefly, we're gonna get into this part. So I will say the only issue that I had with this company would be the fact that they didn't have a co-teacher for this position. So literally I was the only teacher for the entire year teaching these kids basically STEM and dance. I was the dance teacher, not the STEM teacher, so it was very annoying. They had one in the beginning of the school year, but she basically was stretching herself thin doing it anyway, and she ended up having to leave, and then they could never find someone else, but they already started the program, so they just decided to keep me there. I will say, to be quite honest, looking back at it, I feel like they just didn't want to cancel the contract because they didn't want to lose out on the money, but it was extremely unfair to me, and I should have asked for more pay for that because it was ridiculous. They did have a teacher that came in once a week, and she lived super far, and she would be there virtually. Yeah, I know I told this story. Hopefully I find it by the time I post this and I link it down below. But basically the girl didn't do shit. She had a bad attitude. The kids hated her. I hated her. It was a whole thing. So after that, I was kind of annoyed. But again, I still really enjoyed the kids. I enjoyed the company. I enjoyed the mission. So I went on to do the summer program. If you guys follow me on social media, you would have saw about 2 years ago. Oh my God, time flies. This literally was 2 years ago. Where I had posted like, hey, I'm going to be a dance teacher in Harlem. Super exciting. Really cool program. The only thing is this program was 6 weeks straight. Literally Monday through Friday. And wait, what am I talking about? It wasn't 6 weeks. It was 3 weeks straight. Thank God. But that shit felt like 6. Okay. It was a very long program. And by the end of that program, we literally had to put on a full-blown production. I have no idea how we did it. I have no idea how they do that shit every year. I feel like it's extremely problematic to put that much stress on us and the kids. But hey, like, it was fun. Okay. It was an experience. Okay. And I will say, aside from what happened, it was all right. But that shit just always left a real bad taste in my mouth, right? So I signed up for this program along with, I will say, 7 others, right? So it's like about 8 teachers. And then of course there was a site leader, there was site support, and then there was like the site, like, you know, kind of like the principal. It was very interesting. It was very much so structured like a school, but it was a summer program for literally only 3 weeks. Now, one thing about this program that was very interesting and that set it apart from other programs is that it was free and the kids got food. It's a very good program. So I was very happy to be part of it. And I ended up being matched with a girl that kind of just started working at this company, right? And I will say that the way they treated her, I didn't really like it either. And it's just sad because, like I said, I really like this job, but like the way they went about things was just ridiculous. So I ended up getting paired with the girl. We're gonna call her Dana. So Dana, again, just got hired. She was still in school. She honestly was studying to be a teacher. So this was a great opportunity for her. High pay in the summer, transitioning between her classes, like it was perfect. And she really didn't know much. And she was like super shy, super reserved, but at the same time, she was very cool. Like, I really liked her. She was definitely one of my favorite co-teacher situations, aside from my first co-teacher that I had to leave. So I will say that with her, the only issue is she didn't know anything because she literally was never with the company before. A majority of us that decided to do the summer program volunteered to do it, literally because we were asked to. It was one of those things where the company would be like, hey, who's trying to work for blah blah program in the summer? And you had to volunteer, or they would put out applications if not enough people volunteered, because the shit is strenuous. Like, you may look at it and be like, oh, it's 3 weeks. Say you about to make hella bread, $45 an hour, 40 hours a week for 3 weeks. Like, yes, but at the same time, what y'all need to understand is, like, it was a lot of stress. Like, it was a very stressful job to have just for that 3 weeks. Like, literally, I had to take a nice little break for 2 weeks after that, you know? So it sucked for her because she didn't know nothing about the company. So, and she also didn't receive any training. Like, I kid you not, she didn't get any type of training, any type of prep or anything like that. So since she was going to be the STEM teacher, I will say the STEM teachers do way more work in this, and they actually get given a curriculum and they actually have to do the tech and all of that. And if you're not somebody that's extremely into tech or extremely into the position that you applied for as a STEM teacher, like if you're not like heavily into one of those fields, it's going to be very difficult for you. She was more so in education, not necessarily in STEM. So it was very difficult for her. The program in itself had different types of STEM related things. There was one that was like more so, to be honest, now that I think about it, I probably shouldn't give that away because you guys are going to figure out what I'm talking about, or you're going to be easily able to Google it. So let me just stop right there with that. But let's just say there was different types of STEM related activities that the kids were supposed to retain for a semester, or in this case for the program. And then they would use these elements of STEM, put them to dance that they create themselves, and then perform it at the end at a showcase. Now, what's very annoying with this is, even though the kids were separated by cohort and they all learned a specific type of STEM skill set, sometimes, In the beginning of this program, they wanted us to all teach these kids something. And that's where I will say all of our work came in, because Jesus Christ, we were dancing like crazy, okay? So for example, say if we had STEM set science, that's what we're gonna do. We're just gonna name each thing STEM for STEM. Let's say one group was more science-based, right? But I was more in the tech. I would have to teach the science kids for like a day, or was it a week? I forgot what it was, but it was a time in the beginning where we all had to switch and we were all teaching each cohort each day, which was ridiculous because you guys want us to put on a production in 3 weeks, but the full fucking week, I'm not even with my kids. I was with my kids for one day out of the first week, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I was with a different set of kids teaching them my sect of dance, okay? So the way they had this was we all had special skill sets. So I was doing Caribbean dance. There was someone that was doing Afrobeat. There was someone that was doing more contemporary and ballet, and then there was someone that was doing hip hop. So we all rotated to teach each cohort our specialty. So our specialty, so to speak, took up so much time, very unnecessary in my opinion, but I understand the point of it for the kids. So they're able to put together their choreography. But the thing I didn't understand is they wanted the kids to stick within their niches, I guess, within their specific genre that their dance teacher was teaching them. So I didn't even understand the point of that. I mean, I guess learning is always fun, right? So initially we end up going to training. There was a training situation that happened the whole week before. And then we had an in-person training that was mandatory. And then following that, the following week, we started the program. Now, I will say when it came to my co-teacher, although I really liked her and I actually still talk to her to this day, since she was not trained, she really didn't know what she was doing and it wasn't her fault. And I hate that for her. And it really pisses me off because like they set us up for failure. So let's just say we had to do the tech part of STEM, okay? Where the kids were wearing wearable technology that had to sync up to music in which they had to choreograph for. So it was pretty cool, but at the same time, it's pretty hard, but not really. I don't know how to explain it. Like the circuit boards and the wearable tech wasn't necessarily the hard part. It was more so teaching the kids how to sync the music and the choreography to the wearable tech, especially because we didn't have the shit that we needed. So let's just fast forward to the first day. First day of the program, literally we see that we have the biggest class. Like I'm talking about anywhere from 30 to 40 students. Everyone else had like maybe 25, 26, 18. We had anywhere from 30 to 40 students and it was hectic. Like these kids was loud. They was doing the most. But one thing about me, I don't play that shit. Okay. I don't play with kids. If I tell you to shut up, you gonna shut up. All right. Like I was, I guess I would say the disciplinarian. Like the kids were really scared of me, which is funny because I'm so little. Like literally these kids are bigger than me. But I was out here on some like, y'all gonna shut up. You feel me? And I'll say Dana was more of the, okay guys, be quiet. Like she was real nice. She was super sweet. But she was having a really hard time because she was not given the tools. So we already had our bonding moments. We talked before the program started. We were on the understanding that if one of us faltered, the other one would pick up the pieces, okay? And in this case, going in the first week of school, not only did neither one of us have the tools, but she also got sick and she lost her voice. So it was like, God damn, sis, like you really going through it, but I got you. The way these classes were structured, whether it was during the school year or during the summer, it was always the same. It was always STEM first, then dance, or dance first, then STEM. It would be one portion of the class followed by the other portion of the class. And it was literally just like you teaching and then the other teacher monitoring. So what would really annoy me about this whole aspect was like us as dance teachers, we never really had a curriculum, which a lot of people might find that a good thing. I personally don't like that. I'd rather know what I'm doing. But I guess in hindsight, maybe it was good that nobody was telling me what to do. However, the STEM teachers did have to follow a certain curriculum and you really had to like retain it. But the problem is a lot of the shit didn't really make sense. For example, we had the tech, right? We had the wearable tech situation. Why the fuck we go in to the first day of this program and none of the tech is there? Most of the tech is missing. And to top it off, we don't have a classroom. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we had 30 to 40 kids with absolutely no classroom. And where did they have us teaching? Literally in the cafeteria lounge area with all these kids. Luckily there was space, but it was just weird because the kids noticed that everybody else went into their classroom and they didn't have a classroom. Now, mind you, we're trying to round these kids up. My co-teacher can't yell because she's sick. And we already had the conversation like, hey, I can't yell. If we really need to, discipline the kids or say something loudly, like, just make sure you got me. So I'm trying to like essentially get these kids together. We start with STEM on the first day. However, she's having problems with her laptop. She can't open the documents because again, they did not fully prepare this girl. I need y'all to keep this in mind. Okay. So she's trying to get her her stuff together, and it's like a lot of dead air and a lot of dead silence. And while we're teaching, we have one of the higher ups come in. We're just gonna call her Jasmine. So she comes in, she's charging her laptop, she's sitting on the floor, and she's trying to get her work done. I didn't know she was really paying attention to us, but of course she would pay attention to us. She's one of the higher up people, right? So while she's over there, basically Dana is choking. Like, I'm talking about, she's getting anxious. She is not able to charge her computer. She's not able to open up the documents on the computer. In order for it not to get awkward, I basically take over anytime she stops. Like, it was bad. I'm not gonna hold you, it was bad, but I think I was able to cover it up pretty well. And again, we already had this conversation. If something happens, we're gonna piggyback off of each other. The girl lost her voice. She can't open the files. Like, I'm not about to sit there and let there be dead space. So, you know, I would be like, hey guys, how's your day? All right, so while she gets that up, you know, who's dealt with tech before? Who's put together motherboards? Da-da-da-da. Like, I would literally try to like move it along to not make it look like we was fucking up, because we was fucking up bad. And eventually they did bring us like some little things that we could play with for the kids. It was like these little, I don't even remember. I can't tell you what it was, but it was literally like, in terms of coding and putting shit together, like tech wise, it was some baby shit. It wasn't even anything that serious, but it was something for the kids to do. Okay, so literally as she's trying to put shit together, pull up the documents or whatever to teach the kids how to use these little motherboard chip, whatever it was, I forgot what it was. Listen, I'm the dance teacher, not the STEM teacher. One of the kids is like, hey, like, how do you work this? Like, how does this work? And I said, girl, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know. I'm the dance teacher, not the tech teacher. And we all started laughing or whatever. And you know, that was that. Finally gets everything together. She starts teaching the kids how to put these things together. Like, it was really, really fun. We head into dance, blah, 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 blah. I get a Slack message. Okay. I get a Slack message talking about, you know, I need to go talk to management. So the head of management, we're gonna call her Sasha, right? So Sasha is like, hey, we really need to talk to you about today, da-da-da. I'm thinking everybody had a we need to talk to you today type of message because everything was fucking crazy. I will say it wasn't as bad as the school that I just worked at, but it was pretty hectic. You know, a lot of the classes didn't have AC. They were too small. Some people didn't have tables. Some people didn't have desks. Like, it was all over the place. Like, we didn't even have a classroom for real. So like, I thought that's what they wanted to talk about. So why the fuck I get pulled into this shit? And I went with Dana, but Dana like waited in the hallway. So I go into the room and it's Sasha and Jasmine. And they're just sitting there like, hey, you know, we really wanted to talk to you about earlier today. We noticed that during the STEM portion of the class, you really took over and you really weren't letting Dana really teach the class. What did I just tell y'all? We literally had full-blown conversations about not only that she was sick, but also she wasn't properly trained. And she also told me she had horrible anxiety. So sometimes she might choke, she might freeze. And I said, girl, I got you. If that ever happens, you know, we got each other, because I have anxiety too. It happens to me. Not as much now because I'm so used to teaching at this point, but it's like, yo, like, we had that heart to heart. We had that conversation. We had a plan going into this. So I understand, you know, you have a really strong personality. And you know, sometimes it could rub people the wrong way. And in this case, we just really feel like you were really like overpowering Dana. And we really don't want this to be one of those situations where the kids respect you, but don't respect Dana. It took everything inside me not to literally be like, first the fuck off, you know what the fuck you talk about. Because are you kidding me right now? I was just looking like, what? Yeah, like at one point during the STEM portion, I recall you saying that, you know, Dana doesn't know what she's doing. And, you know, I just feel like that's extremely inappropriate. I'm sorry, ma'am. First of all, I understand where you're coming from. However, that's not what happened. If you really need to know, my co-teacher, Dana, who you just hired with no tools and no training, is in addition sick. So we had the conversation that if something were to arise, because she also has anxiety, I would cover for her. And that's what happened. Computer's not working, can't open the files. And then on top of that, we don't have a classroom and we don't have the tools that we were given. So I'm not gonna let her choke, nor am I gonna let the class be filled with a bunch of dead air and dead space because you guys didn't properly train her. Oh, wow. Okay, yeah, we weren't really, wow, she's sick. We weren't aware of that. Also, no one said that she didn't know what she was doing. I said that I don't know what I'm doing when one of the kids asked about a coding situation or whatever the fuck it was. I never said anything like that. I never tried to overpower the class or take her voice away, and nor am I trying to create an environment where the kids don't respect my co-teacher. So, oh my God. Okay, yeah, all right, we understand. Okay, you know, we just from like, you know, outside looking in, that's what it looked like. So we really wanted to address these concerns because, you know, essentially it just looked like, you know, you were bullying her. One thing about me, I ain't never been a bully to somebody that ain't deserve to be bullied. I hate to say it that way, but yes, I've been a bully before to people that was bullies to me and people that were bullies to other people. Oh well. But in terms of me just going out my way to be mean and malicious and take over a class, like, nigga, it's just a summer program. I was so offended by this shit. Like, I almost flipped the table. I almost went back to high school Ivana, because why would I even do that intentionally? Like, why would you need to worry about getting enough tables, enough chairs in a classroom for us, okay? Because come to find, the reason we didn't have a classroom was because we had way over the capacity for the classroom limit in that institution. So they never told the school specifically and adequately how many kids we had. Okay, so the school that we had the program at was thoroughly upset with us because they saw over 200 kids in there. Okay, over 200 kids in this program when they probably only told them there was gonna be 100 kids. And like literally couldn't be in a classroom because legally it would have been over capacity and it would have been a fire hazard, right? So my thing is, go worry about that shit instead of beating down my neck about some bullshit that didn't even happen. So whatever. I go out in the hall, I see Dana, and I'm just upset, and she obviously sees I'm upset, and she's like, are you okay? Like, what happened? And I explained to her what happened, and she's like, what? Like, why would they even, like, are they trying to say like I'm weak or something? Like, I can handle a classroom. Like, I know how to talk. I really don't feel well today. Like, I can't believe they came at you for that. Like, nah, we're gonna show them. We're gonna show them. I said, nah, dead ass, because that shit just pissed me off. She's like, wait, they just talked to me earlier, and I told them I was sick. So I don't know why they're trying to come at you. I was so upset at this point because it's like, y'all got a problem, and I don't know what the fuck the problem is, but you need to go solve it. But most importantly, you need to go worry about more important things instead of pressing me for some bullshit that literally didn't even happen. So whatever. Fast forward, right? Like I said, the beginning of the program, we all had to switch. We all had different cohorts every day. Personally, I did not like the idea of this. Like, I genuinely didn't. Like, in that first day, I already bonded with my kids, which is crazy. Like, I really liked those kids. Like, they were just so sweet, even though they were very rowdy. I had the rowdiest bunch, which is funny. Like, they gave me the rowdiest kids. Like, they had the biggest personalities. Like, literally every single time they walked in, like, they was commanding the room. Like, I loved them. But, you know, eventually we all had to switch. So each dance teacher ended up having a different cohort every day so we could teach them our specialty, right? So I think this had to be the second or third day where we ended up convening at the end. So the way it worked was, it was morning time. There was like a guest speaker every day, which I'm telling you right now was the most boring shit ever. I could not stand this guest speaker shit. The kids couldn't stand it. Like, it was literally so boring. Although it was only like 20 to 30 minutes, y'all, it felt like an hour and a half. Like, these guest speakers were boring as shit. And then I'm not gonna hold you. Some of them were actually pretty inaccurate, like with whatever it is that they were talking about, but that's besides the point. So it's crazy because I would only get to see my kids in the morning, and then I'd have to get switched off for that entire week. So, you know, the kids were like, oh my God, like, you are a teacher, you not they teacher. Like, they was getting real sad, and, you know, I really missed them throughout the day. However, it got to, I believe, the second or third day where the kids had the hip hop teacher. So we're gonna call this teacher, we're gonna call him Crick Crack. I don't even know, because y'all know that's my series. That's my series on my Haitian channel. We're just gonna call him Crick Crack. So Crick Crack was an interesting individual. If y'all think I'm outgoing and I'm out there, and y'all, Crick Crack was very out there. Like, he was very loud, rambunctious, expressive. But I will say he kind of gave creep. Okay, he really did. But he was cool. Unfortunately, he was Haitian. And I'm saying unfortunately because, of course, the rest of the story. But yeah, he was also Haitian, but he was one of those Haitians that could not speak Creole, which really annoys me, especially when you're an adult. Fucking learn. Okay, learn your cultures, people. But he was real cool. I had worked with him previously. I've seen him at so many different company events. So working with him, I thought like, yo, this is gonna be some shit. Like, it's gonna be lit, right? So one thing I noticed when I worked with his kids, because mind you, like I said, this is the first week. When I worked with his kids, they didn't like him. And it wasn't like, oh my God, we hate him, he's annoying. It was more of a like, weary, we don't like him. It was more of a like, we wish we had another teacher. I didn't look into it too much. I just thought it was oh, well, y'all don't really know him. It's only been a few days and you guys only had him fully for one day. You guys will definitely warm up to him in due time. However, this is when I realized it was some shit, right? At the end of the day, we always reconvene. We have like a cute little shout out session. If the kids learn a dance or whatever, we have them perform it. And then it's like dismissal. We dismiss them by group and all of this extra shit. So I go back to my class and the girls are talking about like, yo, yes, like he's such a creep. He is such a creep. Mind you, I have middle school kids, right? So they're like, yeah, he's such a creep. Like, oh my God, like, yes, like, remember when he was pushing her down? Remember when he was pushing her? Yes, like he was putting hands on her back. And I'm just confused because I'm like, what are y'all even talking about? Like, I didn't understand what was going on. But at the same time, like, it was clicking, but it wasn't clicking. So I go to my co-teacher, Dana. I'm like, girl, what's going on? Like, what the kids talking about? Talking about, like, hands on the back. And then she was like, so she pulls me. And Dana is like, girl, I don't know what happened, but when Crick Crack was teaching the kids, I'm hearing some of the girls saying that he was touching them inappropriately and making comments. So I'm just like, Crick Crack? Like, I was just like, wait, what? Now, Crick Crack is actually one of the teachers that's actually been here for a very long time. And also, like, he's cool. We hit it off. He's Haitian. So I was just like, Crick Crack? Like, and she's like, yeah, like, girls have been talking about it all day ever since dance class. And some of them are, like, literally extremely uncomfortable. And I really don't know what to do about it. But, like, I can't really keep it under wraps because, like, now they keep talking about it out loud. And, like, I don't want someone to hear it. And I'm just so confused because, like, I don't, like, at this point, remember, I was with a whole nother class, which I believe was his class that day. I'm remembering what they were saying about him and how they feel about him, as well as their other co-teacher. Their co-teacher was fucking, the STEM teacher, trash. She literally would be falling asleep on the phone, all types of shit, but that's not the point. And then I hear my kids talking about how he's a creep and he's pushing on them and all types of stuff. So I'm like, okay, let me go ask the kids real quick. Let me just make this little casual, little nonsense. So I go and I ask the kids like, hey guys, and they're like, hey, I'm like, hey guys, and they're like, hey. So I'm like, so how was dance class? And all of their faces was like, and then you had the outspoken ones. There's always those couple of kids. It was interesting. Miss Ivana. And I'm like, wait, what? And then you had another one like, yeah, Crick Crack's doing a lot. Crick Crack. I'm like, wait, what do you mean? So we were stretching, right? Mind you, I told you I had the most loudest, rambunctious kids in the building. So one of them gets up and demonstrates, right? She's like, so Crick Crack had us do this stretch, right? Gets on the floor in like a fetal position and like lays her back close to the floor. And she's like, so he had us do this and he was saying we wasn't getting low enough. So he came around and he was pushing his hands onto our back into the floor. So at this point, I'm just like, are you sure? Yes, he did it to at least like 6 of us. And on top of that, he was making slick comments talking about, to be honest, I'm not even gonna misspeak here and say he said something he didn't say, but I know whatever was extremely inappropriate. It had something to do, oh wait, I remember now. It was a high five comment, something along the lines of, oh, I'm only gonna, like, damn, I don't remember. All I know is it had something to do with a high five. Let me think, what was it? I don't know. But I know that one of the kids told me, like, in private after that, he made like a very sexual joke towards her. Again, I don't remember what it was, but this is when I really started taking it seriously and everything started to click in my head. And I'm like, don't tell me this nigga's a creep. And it doesn't help that he was the only male dance teacher. I mean, it doesn't help that, like, at that point, it was just like, I didn't know what to do or what to say because, like, I wasn't there. So I go to Dana and I'm like, Dana, this is what such and such told me. This is what the kids just said. And where was you at? And Dana's like, honestly, it might have been when I walked away to bring one of the kids to the bathroom. So since we were at a specific type of institution, they did not want the kids in the halls by themselves. So we always had to escort the kids to the bathroom. So of course we have a co-teacher model. So whoever wasn't teaching would bring the kids to the bathroom. So essentially she said it must have happened when she was bringing the kids to the bathroom because she did not see or hear anything like that. And I'm just like, Jesus Christ, like this is an issue. Like, I don't know what to do besides report it. But at the same time, like, I hope they're not lying, but it was so descriptive, y'all. Like, I'm talking about, like, not only was it he put our hands on our back and pushed us down, it was the comments. It was like the stretches that that he had them making was extremely questionable. So it was one of those things where like we were just looking at each other like, yo, this is fucking crazy. Like, what do we do? So after that, we were like, okay, let's see if they say anything tomorrow. But for now, we're gonna report this to Sasha and Jasmine, etc. So we go, we tell them, and I will say they didn't seem to be concerned. They kind of were on some, oh, well, yeah, middle school girls talk. That's literally how they kind of tried to frame it. They literally kind of tried to be like, oh, well, you know, maybe they were just joking. Maybe, you know how girls what, nigga? Because last I checked, girls be the ones getting taken advantage of. Boys be the one getting taken advantage of. Kids be the ones that are getting taken advantage of. So as far as you sitting here trying to be like, oh, well, you know how kids know. Actually, I don't, because I don't think that the kids, especially my kids, would lie about some shit like that. Like, yeah, they're loud, they're rambunctious, but that's like a very specific type of accusation. So whatever. Next day we come in and we start freaking out because half the kids are not there. Like I'm talking about, we went from 30 to 15 real fucking quick. I later on found out that a lot of them ended up going to a different camp that actually was a paid camp later on. Some of them just dropped because they dropped. There was one in particular that didn't come back, and she was the main one that was talking about the dude being a creep. And I was like, oh my gosh, she told her mom they about to pull up here with CBS. They gonna come at us. They gonna be like, where the fuck was we at? Like, y'all, like me and Dana was like, fuck, like this is crazy. Like, yo, we was thinking so deep into it. It was insane. And then it didn't help that one of the kids came in crying. Okay, like I'm talking about like crying like her dog died crying. So we're like, oh my God, like what is going on? And she's crying. This is like, yo, we definitely read too much into it. However, like literally there was a viable explanation for everything. When it came to her, she did have problems at home. Like I was with her every single morning because she came in every single morning crying her eyes out. I would sit with her in the hall. I loved that girl to pieces. Like she definitely was my favorite. Like she had a horrible attitude, but she was my favorite. I always liked the badass kids. I swear to God. Like she was a sweetheart though. She was a sweetheart, but she definitely had a lot going on. So we thought, okay, the shit died down. We didn't have to worry about it. We told the job. They didn't really seem to care. The kids ain't talking about it until they started talking about it, ladies and gentlemen. They started talking about it. They started talking about it again. It wasn't subtle. Okay, I'm talking about they see him walk in during like the morning arrival situation and they're like, creep! Ooh, look at him. Touching kid head ass. So at this point, we just looking at each other like, yeah, okay, let's go check in to see what's going on. Like, cause this ain't jiving. Now, mind you, at this point it has to be Thursday. So I think it happened on a Tuesday. That should happen on a Wednesday where they were like basically looking at him some type of way, whatever the case may be. And then at this point it's like Thursday, right? So at this point we bring it up to them like, hey, what's going on with everything? Like, have you guys checked into what we told you? And they're like, no, not yet. Could you give us the names of the girls who said this so that we could investigate? I don't know, something about this kind of annoyed me because it was the way they kind of said it. It was the way they kind of tried to insinuate that the kids were lying. It was the way that they tried to insinuate that, I don't know, interviewing them would have changed anything. Like, I guess they had to interview them, but at the same time, we're talking about something very touchy and very sensitive. Most kids, especially, are not going to be open about something like that with admin, with management or whatever. They're already coming at them at a space where it's like, we don't believe you. Like, they were being extremely dismissive of this shit. And I cannot understand why. So the kids are kind of like uncomfortable to the point where like, even when he tries to come say hi to them, they ignore him. Like literally, like he would come over to my class and be like, hey, and then they all had a cohort name. So we're just gonna call them Eagles. Hey, Eagles! Straight iced him out. Entire class, not one would respond. And I'm like, oh my God, this ain't it. Like, there's a lot of kids in here. Everybody's in the same space. Like at this point, it's gonna start getting out, especially with the way these kids are acting and how they're talking. So we continuously followed up. Me and Dana continuously followed up like, hey, how is this going? Have you guys actually cared to find out if what we said was viable? Or like, you know, have you guys actually checked in to see if this man is touching kids? Like, cause this is a problem. And it's only a matter of time till somebody tells their parent and they start raising hell in this bitch. I ain't got time. So eventually, the site leader, she don't really need a name. She's like, well, honestly, we think that maybe they could have been over exaggerating. So, you know, just to make sure, what we're gonna do is we're gonna like call in the kids that you guys named and we're gonna see. All right, whatever. So throughout the day, they're calling the kids in, trying to talk to them to see what happened. Fast forward, at the end of the day, they call us, they call me and Dana and we're like, okay, so what did you guys find out? Like, what did they say? Well, yeah, they do claim that something was going on, but we feel like, you know, since he's a guy, you know, he does things differently. And, you know, we really don't want to have this culture where just because he's a guy, you know, he's accused of things. And And, we feel like, it might just be like a teenage girl thing. Now y'all see why this shit left a bad taste in my mouth, because it's just like teenage girl thing. Like, this is a teenage girl thing to y'all? Like, no, absolutely not. These girls said they've been touched. Not just one, not two, not three, but at least like 10 of them said that he touched them inappropriately in just that one class. This is something that needs to be talked about. This is something that needs to be looked at further. So whatever. They basically gave us the, well, we don't want to discriminate because he's a man type shit. And it's kind of interesting that in a woman-dominated company that serves little girls would really try to sit there and prioritize the opinions, the feelings, and whatever the case may be of a man. Like that shit, I'm sorry, it's just crazy to me. Like, it doesn't really make any sense. So whatever. Fast forward, they do end up telling Crick Crack, like, hey, like, you have some accusations against you, so please try to make sure you're not touching the kids inappropriately in a way that they can misinterpret, things like that. So eventually he does end up coming to me about it, like, yeah, so I just found out that, the kids are saying that, I done touched them or they felt some type of way, blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, oh, I wonder, I don't know. One thing about me, I've always been extremely upfront. I've always been extremely like, I don't give a fuck. I said what I said. I meant what I said. But in this case, it's touchy. I didn't want no retaliation issues, and I didn't want him to think or know that it was my kids. I didn't want him to know that it was my kids, because his kids also didn't like him, and they were also the worst, like the worst behaved kids in the, shit. So I ain't gonna lie to you, he probably just thought it was his kids. And I let him think it was his kids, baby. So he's like, damn, like, I don't know why this is always happening. I said, I don't know. But I peeped that he said, I don't know why this is always happening. And that's why I'm making this story time, because I feel like there's too many of y'all parents that do not get involved in your kids shit. You just drop them off wherever because you gotta go to work, you gotta do this, you gotta do that. You don't ask your kids how they're doing. You don't ask them how their day is. You don't ask them about their teachers, their curriculums, their grades. Like, as long as it's an A, that's all that matters. You don't want to know how they got that A. You don't want to know the homework they had, the projects they had. And it's extremely important, because then you have shit like this happening. If the kid doesn't tell you, the kid doesn't tell you, but a lot of y'all just don't even ask. And this shit kind of bothered me because, one, I was expecting a parent to come down there and raise hell. Not saying I wanted the drama, but like just to show that somebody was actually concerned, because literally for about a week and a half, which was literally half the program, these kids kept talking about how much of a creep he was, how they didn't like him because he touched them inappropriately or said something inappropriate to them. And here the company is hiding this shit. And here he is like, I don't understand why this shit keeps happening. It keeps happening because you're a creep. Okay? It keeps happening because you're obviously doing something that you should not be doing. So eventually it comes to a point where later on it's all of us. This is like the day of the performance, right? This is post-performance. So at this point, everything happened. Program's over, performances happened, everything is in, and we have like a get together for work, right? It's like kind of like a end of the program powwow, eat, drink, chill type vibe. And we all end up going because why not? We deserve it. But y'all, when I'm telling you, we was fucking tired. We was freaking exhausted. Like, the show itself was stressful because none of the tech worked the way it was supposed to. Like, when I'm telling you they set us up for failure, they set us up for failure. Like, my kids were done with their choreography earlier than anyone else in this program. However, unfortunately, since we had wearable tech, that was the biggest issue. The tech would not stay on. The tech would not calibrate properly. So it led to lots of tears the day of the show. Like, I had kids, like, as soon as they were done performing, crying and running deeper backstage because they were just like, what the fuck? Like, I missed the dance step. The lights weren't on. Blah, blah, blah. It was really, really sad. And what really annoyed me with this is, like, Jasmine was sitting there rubbing salt on the wounds, like, especially during dress rehearsal. Like, we had a dress rehearsal, like, a few hours before the show, and the bitch gonna be like, oh my God, like, they didn't even prepare them. Bitch, fuck you. Like, I will fuck you up. Like, it's not even that the kids weren't prepared per se. I had one group in particular, though, that was ahead. I'm talking about, like, did all day choreography in, like, 2 to 3 days, but then they all started beefing with each other and all of this extra shit, like, little kid drama. But other than that, my other 2 groups were fine, or was it 3? My other groups were fine, but that group was a little sloppy. They were doing too much, and I was on some, do it again, do it right, or do it twice. Like, I was getting mad. Like, do that shit and do it. Like, I was getting so upset. So I understand where she was coming from with that, but you're not gonna talk shit about my kids in my presence, because what's gonna happen is I'm gonna cuss you out. So I don't think I heard it. I think Dana was the one that heard it, and then she told me, and I got real upset. And it got to the point where, like, we both confronted her, like, after the fact, like, what you're not gonna do is talk shit like that. And she tried to walk back. And she tried to basically save her ass and say, oh no, I wasn't really saying anything that, like, yes, you were, bitch. Yes, you were. Because, like, you're, like, I don't know what her problem was with me and Dana or that class. class. Like, she just always had something to say, and it was very fucking annoying. So it's safe to say that we were all happy this shit was fucking over, because Jasmine, you could get clapped. Fuck that bitch, I don't care. But anyway, so we end up going to this after party, work, whatever situation, and of course Crick Crack is there, and we're talking about everything, because there was a lot to be talked about. Like, yo, this story could have been like a 3-part story, to be quite honest with you, but we're gonna stick to this part of the story. What's funny about this whole situation, and why I really wanted to tell this story, was because of this part, right? So he gonna say, just like he did a few weeks ago, yeah, like, you know, I just find it crazy, like, that the kids really try to accuse me of doing something. Like, I ain't never do nothing, you know? But it's crazy because, you know, you see how bad these Brooklyn kids were. So pause, right? So I was working in Harlem, but there was a separate program going on in Brooklyn, and the kids in Brooklyn were bad as fuck, disrespectful, very rude. Like, I'm talking about to the point where there was literally a time where, like, one of the other teachers that I was working with in Harlem had saw one of the Brooklyn kids in the hallway, like, while we were prepping for the show, and she looked upset. It was like a little girl. She looked upset, and she was like, hey, like, are you okay? She said, leave me alone. We didn't play that shit in Harlem. You're not raising your voice. You're not catching the attitude. You ain't doing none of that shit. So the co-teacher that I was with was like, excuse me? And she kept walking. She found out her name, went to her teacher, told her what she did, and made that girl do sit-ups. Again, we was not fucking around with these kids. So basically, Crick Crack was like, oh, you saw how them kids in Brooklyn was? Like, yo, I worked in Brooklyn. Like, listen, you don't want to work in Brooklyn. Like, those kids, they get down like that. That's how he talked. Those kids, they get down like that. Like, you know, there was actually a girl over there that was trying to say that, you know, I was inappropriately touching her and, you know, saying things towards her. Me and Dana looked at each other like, so I said, oh, really? Really? What happened? Yo, when I'm telling you, I was like, what the fuck? And mind you, at this point, we're over the whole situation. We're not thinking about it. The show happened. The kids are happy. Everyone did their shit. Now we just chilling and we drinking or whatever. So when he said that, I was like, do tell, pray tell, pray tell. Okay, he's like, yeah, you know, like one of these kids, they try to say, one of these kids, you know, I used to talk to her all the time. She wasn't really my student, you know, and she always used to be in the hallways. You know, she was never in class. Now that's how you know that these Brooklyn teachers don't give a fuck, because I'm confused. I'm like walking around like, nigga, what? Like, we never had kids roaming shit. Every kid was where they were supposed to be. So I was just like, yeah, that's crazy. He was like, yeah. So then one time, you know, I saw one of the girls and, you know, she had like a real show outfit on. And, you know, I might have made a comment or something. And, you know, she went and blew her all out of proportion saying I was flirting with her and all this. And her parents tried to sue me. You know, they went to the company trying to get my name. And, you know, that's why I really love this company, because they ain't never give my name. You know, they stood on business. They ain't never get my name. They ain't never say nothing about who I was or anything like that. They really truly protected me. This shit pissed me off. And I think I was disgusted about this for a good couple months, because not only do you have one accusation, technically you have two, and God knows what else. And the company basically hid it for you. Okay? I don't know who, I don't know how, and I don't know why, but the Lord reveals all, right? He's telling this story. We're looking at each other. I'm just like, okay, that's interesting. Because I mean, that ended up happening in Harlem too. He's like, yeah, you know, these kids, sometimes they just be saying things. Sometimes they, you know, like little girls, you know how they be. No, I don't know how they be, but all right, Crick Crack. He's like, yeah, but you know, I gotta go. You know, I'm leaving. You know, I got somewhere to be tomorrow. And it's funny because I noticed at least two other higher ups leave. So me and Dana had this like real interesting suspicion and hunch that he might have been fucking somebody higher up, because that's the only thing that makes sense. Like, literally, this man has had at least 2 accusations of touching kids, and y'all didn't do a damn thing about it. And then 2 of y'all leaving early, he's leaving early. Mind you, this is the type of nigga that love to party, love to drink. So it was just interesting, because I was like, I'm gonna let go and let God. We did what we could in that aspect, and you know, we did speak to certain parents about it too, so they could do something about it. I'm not sure if they ever did anything about it. I never ended up working there again, because like after that, the year prior, they had the nerve, gall, audacity to send out applications for the position. Like I said, right, before we only had to volunteer. Like, we had to say, hey, yeah, we want to be part of the program this year. This time, there was someone saying, hey, here's the application so you guys can apply. Fuck you. I'm not about to apply for something that I already fucking did. Okay, I gave y'all like, what, a year? Yo, I gave y'all like 2 years of my precious fucking life. I'm not applying for shit. Like, I felt like it was playing in my face. I'm not even gonna hold you. I feel like the whole shit was a play in my face. And to add insult to injury, after this, there was the school year, right? They literally out of nowhere, didn't even like, no notice, no nothing. Hey, we're not doing the program this year at any schools. Please stand by. We're revising our curriculum. They needed to revise their curriculum. curriculum because absolutely none of their tech worked. I swear to God, like the tech part of the program was just so the kids could learn how to code and how to do this and do that. But I kid you not, a majority of it did not work on stage. It never worked on stage. I always thought it was me. I always thought it was my co-teacher. I always thought like it was just the shit that we didn't have. But apparently none of their tech ever worked. And if it did work, a lot of the times they just didn't supply the teachers with what they needed. So essentially they were like, yeah, we have to revise to find shit that actually works, that we could actually show investors and blah, blah, blah. Like this place is all about investors. Every day there was people in my fucking class shadowing and seeing what the kids were doing. Is very freaking irritating. So they were like, yeah, you know, we're not going to be working with anyone, you know, curriculum changes, that shit pissed me all the way off because it's like, really? Curriculum changes? Like, so now I'm out of a part-time job, but to be honest, that was God, because to be honest, I don't even think I really would have worked with them anyway because that shit left a really bad taste in my mouth. Like, you guys have this man working with kids and he has accusations of inappropriate behavior. I don't want to work with a company like that. So yeah, I don't really work with them anymore, but I never formally quit. I literally just left the Slack one day and I guess they got the hint. When it comes to Dana no longer works there either. I feel like a lot of the other teachers probably still work there because a lot of them were ass kisses. Like a lot of them, when I'm telling you, like, oh my God, as the kids say, dick rider. Okay, like a lot of them were dick riders. And I think that's the problem they had with me. I always had a very good rapport with all the kids that I taught. I didn't take no shit. And on top of that, I was very good at what I did. Like my kids were always prepared early. They always retained information and retained choreography extremely well and extremely quickly. And I also never had to ask them for shit. It was literally put me here and I'll execute. Like that's how I've always been. And I don't know, I feel like they had their favorites that they really wanted to succeed. Yeah, it just didn't work out that way, unfortunately for them. And it's funny because like real quick, they had a teacher that they really like, I don't know why, like they were just kissing her ass. And I think it's because like she went to like a dance school. So I mean, I guess maybe she's on track to being a higher up at the company because the ass kissing between both of them with each other was just fucking annoying. And they really tried to make it seem like she was this model teacher, this great teacher. But I swear to God, the bitch was always on her phone. Literally the kids, like, so she taught the babies, right? She had the little kids, like anywhere from like 6 to 8. The kids would try to sit with her at lunch and she'd be like, please get away from me. This is my free time, which I get that, especially as a teacher. We need our free time, but no. If my kids came and sat at my table or if there was nowhere else to sit at, I'd be like, all right, yo, I guess I'm having lunch with y'all. Like, you know, I would never, like, she would literally like shoot them away. She was very mean to these kids. And what was really, really funny and topped it off was during dismissal when one of the kids fell down the stairs and broke their leg. Yep, ladies and gentlemen, yes, this is the model teacher. This is the teacher that they talk about as the best. And we need to ask her for tips. Meanwhile, she always on her phone. She's mean to her kids. And one of her kids fell down the fucking stairs and broke her leg. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if that parent ended up suing, as she fucking should. And what's even crazier is she actually had to ask me and a bunch of other teachers come to her class to come help her kids with their choreography because she was drowning. She was struggling. But then she was getting mad at how niggas was teaching them because, oh, they're babies. That means you have to do the choreography for them and with them so they could retain it. Bitch, they not babies. Yes, they're babies. But at the same time, if you treat them like they're incapable, they're going to be incapable. I don't play that shit. Okay? You going to get this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And you going to retain this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Look, like, no, like I'm not about to, okay, guys, left hand, right hand. No, we're not doing that. Like, we're not doing that. Like, you know, it was just, oh, child, like, I probably could have did a couple story times about this place, but honestly, I'm just gonna let it rest and let God. Moral of the story, get involved with what your kids are doing and always ask them how their day is, because chances are there might be something that you actually need to check into. With that being said, make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe. Keep the description box for everything that you guys always ask me about down below. With that being said, I love you guys so very much. Thank you so much for supporting me, and I'm gonna see y'all in the next one. Bye!